Welcome to the Refine Network podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about a day, right?
You can't even say more than that. It was a day, a day. How'd you feel?
I was definitely, when was that? That was Monday.
Yep.
I think the result of that carried on into Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that know me really well, I don't have bad days or days that they're like, man, Evan was off today. It's very rare.
Yeah.
Tuesday, they probably sensed that. I did everything imaginable to try to snap out of it. I felt like I kind of got my head above water. You know, there's probably some people listening right now going, yep, I know exactly what you're saying. So let's walk them through that day.
You know, when I think back to that day, in this, you know, one thing I'm always so thankful for is that you're always open to any ads that I might have. And I remember the way that we were going to do that day. We were going to have kind of a small setup window. We looked at our schedule. Hey, you know what? We can get over there a couple hours earlier. So we ended up over there 3 hours early. Whole thing is set up. We have tested everything. Every angle's perfect. Audio's good. Our presentation was tight. Everything was set up to go. And then as it would be, in my mind, it was like 11 minutes before we were going to go live. All of a sudden, first the video started to do weird things, and then we had to troubleshoot that. That wasn't working. And then we got it working 4 minutes to, we kick off our 5-minute timer. Right?
5-minute timer was flawless.
Yep. That was, you crushed it on that.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we're using really good tech.
Correct.
Like, we're not jerry-rigging this thing.
Correct.
We have, in my opinion, top of the line webinar software, cameras, microphones, everything. So we've dotted our I's, crossed our T's. It was our first time using the software, but it was simple. So I thought.
When I look at it, and you're exactly right. I mean, if you think about the setup, and as I'm trying to add it all up in my mind, I mean, just you throw both of our MacBooks on the same table. Now we have about $8,000 sitting there, right? And when I look at the whole picture of it, the production side of it, I mean, our rig is probably 15 to 18 when you look at everything, you know, encompassing. And you know, we went live in the moment of it. What happened was there was no audio, and it wasn't something that we could rescue. And what I want to talk about in that day was both in the moment, like how do you, when challenged after you've done all of the appropriate prepping, right? Because that's the hardest thing. If we hadn't prepped and had that amount of time, it'd be like, well, I mean, I think you'd have that experience, but not if you were like, no, I've checked everything, right? It kind of reminds me of like when Clark W. Griswold, you know, gets the whole family outside and goes to light up the house. And he just goes berserk.
That was us.
That was us.
Well, the reason we had to do it at another place is because we were getting our not hot water heater, because that's dumb. Why would you heat up hot water?
Right.
That's what the plumbers told me. So it's a water heater, not a hot water heater. I've said hot water heater my entire life.
Right.
But it's a water heater. We're getting it replaced.
And education in the salon.
We had education, so we had to move. And then our water fountain was the day before is freezing up, dripping water. So all these things going. So I'm like, okay, I'm in control of this webinar. We got this. It's going to be great. I went and customized it, and we go live. And Christopher starting it off, and we start getting comments. Hey, no audio. Hey, we can't hear. People are texting me. Hey, we don't have any audio. I was like, okay. I got a mute button. Maybe I don't have the right input. Well, I go find the right input, and I'm going to get all techie on this. But I dug down deep to find out what it was.
Yep.
And it wasn't working. So I stayed calm, but inside my head, if you know, anyone who knows me well, don't lose my cool. But when things are supposed to work and they don't, that's when I get really frustrated. That's when Erin realizes, okay, babe, calm down. Like, she knows before I'm about to lose it. So I stayed calm. And really what went through my mind, I was like, we look like idiots right now. We look like complete rookies And I'm like, we're not,
Right.
but we look like complete idiots out there. So what I was going to do is I was just going to restart the software. When I restarted, brought it back up, it ended the session, and you can't restart it. So now all these people are watching, and it has now ended. They're just getting a message saying the webinar is ended.
Yep. Thanks.
So then we go live on Instagram and Facebook. And as you're welcoming people in, which is very few people, I jump onto the computer, send out a mass email to everyone in our community.
As I'm opening it up, you're already taking care of that fire, serving those people,
like,
letting them know.
Yes. I'm like, hey, webinar crash, go to our Instagram, Facebook. And I mean, we're sitting there like, when it cuts to me, we had 2 cameras set up. So it was going to cut to me. Now he's hey, we're going to go to Evan. We literally pick up the iPhone and turn it around. I mean, it was so ghetto.
We had your iPad was just whatever we could set it against.
Dude, you sat it up like straight vertical. And I was like, dude, that thing's going to fall. But honestly, in that moment, I'm like, if it falls, it falls. But here's the funny part. Well, there is a lesson in all this. Had a whiteboard and I was drawing on the whiteboard. Well, the whiteboard was short. So we were like, well, let's get.
Well, I mean, it was appropriate height for someone around my height. You needed it taller.
I think we pulled it out of the kids' area at the church. So we put it on 2 chairs and now it's tall enough. Well, it looked great for the webinar that we're doing, but now we're on Instagram Live. You can see the chairs propping up. I mean, I'm just like, what is going on? So we got through it and. Well, tell me what was going through your mind like when we ended the live in Facebook.
So let me actually go even into the part that I really appreciate within partnership was you and I both, without even having a conversation, I went into, okay, let's continue with the time that we told people that we were going to be talking about this. So we're still living up to the promise, or we're at least from the outside, a person would look at it and say, well, you guys could have just quit. But we tried, right? And I think that's part of the ethos of this whole thing. Like even through whatever challenge you get thrown at you, you still can choose to complete the thing at best you can. Or you can choose to quit. And I mean, quitting is okay too. I'm not saying that you have to do the other. But I think the part for me that I was again, so thankful and inspired by partnership in the moment, I got on, started to open the whole thing up. You went into crisis management immediately. In thinking of, hey, all those people that we had sitting there, in a waiting room, before that they scheduled an hour of their time with us. And the first thing was like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to leave these people hanging. I'm going to communicate to them and let them know what's going on. Right.
Well, Bob Iger, who leads Disney now, he did retire. Now he's back. He wrote a book and I read it. And one of the main things I got from it was that in a time of crisis, his brain doesn't freak out. This is a puzzle. What's the next piece I need to do? Because he talks about the story, I talked about it on the podcast before, of when the child was attacked and killed by an alligator. So like when he heard the news about that, he was like, okay, what's the first thing I need to do? And in that situation, he said, I need to reach out to the family.
100%.
And the attorneys were like, no, do not talk to the families. Because they're going law.
We got to contain this
we
thing.
don't want you to say anything to take. He was like, I understand what you're saying, but I'm going to contact this family.
Yep.
So that was the next puzzle piece. So I didn't think about that during all of this, but I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about the guest experience, the person that's consuming it. I mean, what can we do to go above and beyond? Because you take a bad experience from a consumer standpoint is a bad experience. You might have blocked off an hour of your day.
Right.
You might have moved around a meeting or moved around a lunch with someone to join in, and now it just falls apart in the first 6 minutes and 11 minutes actually. And so in my mind, I just defaulted to, all right, what's the next thing I need to do to communicate to everyone that, okay, this is us, it's not you.
Right. This is what happened. This is what's going on. Here's what you can expect. Right. So I think, in that moment of it, I remember sitting there, and it's ironic that we're talking about servant leadership because, again, we didn't have a conversation about, okay, who's going to do what? We literally just jumped in and kept the thing moving. And that was where, like, in a true showing of servant leadership in a moment of crisis, because that's when our leadership, I mean, it's easy to fail in crisis and everyone will give you a pass. But in the moment of it, you had thought, you're like, okay, he's got this going. What's the next most important thing right now? And the first thing was, I have to communicate. You got that part done, and you literally did it. Like, I went through what I needed to talk through, which was probably about 10 minutes of content. And then you literally walked on in front of the whiteboard just as though like business as usual.
Well, as you're talking about that, it shows like how great of a partnership this is, because if I'm in your shoes, I don't know if you were thinking this, I'm thinking, you need to come talk. Let me figure this out. Because I'm always like, let's fix it. Let me look into it. But it was such a great team dynamic, because you're like, okay, let me do my thing. I'm going to trust Evan
100%.
is doing what we didn't talk about sending emails to everyone.
Nope.
It's just, you align yourself with a team-minded person. And when you have a great employee come onto the business and to your salon, you need to find people that are like-minded.
Right.
I didn't have to tell you, hey, stall while I figure this out.
Right.
Or you weren't thinking, hey, you need to send out an email. It's when you have people aligned, they fall in line of what needs to get done. You were doing things that I didn't even think of, vice versa.
100%. Yep.
So it was definitely interesting. We ended it and I was a little bummed.
Super bummed. As deflated as it could be. 0 PSI.
You're rarely going to see me like that, by the way.
I'm not as great as a human as you are, but I try.
Oh, you were talking to me. You were trying to figure out, okay, what went wrong? How can we fix it? And I guess I thought about that the whole time while you were talking. And so I was drained. And I did say one thing. What was that one thing I said about what I need to do next?
It was so funny. You're like, do you like wings?
Dude, I was like, I just need some wings. And there's a place right around the salon. And so saying all that, if you're a leader and you go through a tough time, there's times where you have to push through.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't say, let's go get wings when it crashed.
Mm-mm.
I'm like, no. We got to step up and do what's right.
Mm-hmm.
But after we had a chance to pause, we took a break. And so if you're going through a crisis, if you're going through something, it's just wearing on you, it's okay to take a break, but you got to be smart of when you take that break.
Yep.
Could you work another day or 2 days, and when the salon's closed, take a break or whatnot? There's no cookie cutter way of this is what you do in this time. But we went and ate, started to feel better. And over lunch, we're like, let's re-record this thing.
Yep.
And we went back, and as we're setting it up, I'm like, oh, here's some fine print down here.
Imagine that. You never need to read the fine print.
Well, when it says do not show again, I'm like, I'll click out of it. I won't click that box because I'll come back. I might need it later.
Right.
Well, what that fine print said is that if I take my camera off, the audio goes with it. So the reason we didn't have audio is because I removed myself. If I would have just brought myself on but didn't turn my camera on, we would have had audio. And so it was that moment, as I read that fine print, I said, oh, this is my fault. I didn't read the fine print. And so Christopher looked at me. He's, are you freaking kidding me? He took a chair and just threw it up against the wall and pointed at me. He was like, you are pathetic. Why are you laughing? That was very traumatic for me. I just want the world to know.
Thank you for sharing your experience of it. I guess I'm going to have to, threw the chair at the wall. Wall had a mark. Chair definitely wasn't in its original condition. No, we're just kidding. That part of it though, Evan, I think stating that pause, when you stated that, I've been reminded of something, and you've said it really well. Like, I do think your ability to weather challenging situations and keep your face not in that situation, you have a gift with that. Some of the feedback that I've got as a human is when I'm stressed, I can be kind of an intense person naturally, but in a stressed situation, I'm a problem solver. I'm in my mind thinking like, okay, how do I get this fire out? And my outward appearance can be that I'm frustrated. I might be, in a space of, I would say critical energy. And in the same way that you're like, hey man, do you like wings? And also, by the way, if anyone ever needs a crash course on this, there is no one that will clean a chicken wing better than Evan Silver. I've never seen it.
It was the way I was raised, dude.
It's incredible.
The way that you left your wings and that meat on the bone, like I would be disowned. I would just be walking the streets of I have nowhere to go. I have nobody because I would have been disowned as a young child. So it's
Ford Silver wouldn't have had
I think it's it might be a Southern thing. Like you got to know how to clean some wings. So,
yeah.
Now, I thought you wanted me to finish off those wings. I was like, oh, maybe we're splitting these. I don't know.
That'd be a funny situation. No, I mean,
kind of gross.
If I can paint the picture, if someone was to weigh it, what Evans like completely cleaned, like it was like I was going through a museum, like the dinosaur bones, right? This was preserved. And then I look over to my stack and it's like, no, the whole thing is still sitting there.
Yeah, it looks like a chicken fight over there. I was like, oh, there's some still meat on the bones.
The point though that I want to bring up within that was you have the awareness you put a pause in, you requested the pause. And that's actually something that just recently I've been weathering not a challenging work situation, more just a challenging life situation. And one of the things that I was aware to was that weather was showing up on my face sometimes at work. And what I had requested to our team was, I was like, hey guys, this is a thing that I'm going through. I'm aware of it. I know my DNA well enough to know that I can seem kind of intense when I'm challenged. And I literally requested from our whole team, I was like, hey, the best way, if you see me like that, please, I don't want to show up that way. It's not my intention. And what I've said to them is just come up to me and say, hey, Chris, it's a really nice day to go take a walk outside. And when they come up in that way, if I'm seen or if I'm carrying any of that energy, I've given them permission to come up to me. You can check me any day of the week, right? As a leader, it is not, I mean, I prep myself pretty well in the morning and it's not what I would never want to bring my energy into someone's day. I don't want to project on anybody. But in that same way, when you asked for the wings, my side of it is giving people permission to let me know where I'm at. I don't need hey, Chris, you look mad. No, I'm not mad. I'm just a little frustrated, but that's not something that's here, right? By coming up and saying, hey, you know what? It's a really nice day to take a walk outside. That lets me know that I need to get out of the space. I literally go walk around our building. The whole time what I'm thinking about is, okay, thankfulness, gratitude, thankfulness, gratitude, thankfulness, gratitude, right? And it's enough to get me out of where I'm at so I can come back into it. So fast forward through that, I get a 101, 102 to 111 lesson on how to clean wings. We come back in, and the part that, again, I want to celebrate you for was if it was going to be okay if we just would have said, okay, let's keep on with our day. We had things scheduled right after that. We had to start filming for the Artist Academy. When you said, you're like, hey, let's redo this, my soul was like, absolutely. This is exactly what we need to do, because then we've worked through the crisis, we've worked through it, and now we're back at the same end result, which was we wanted to put together, we had a ton of really great content. And it was like, hey, let's still do this. We can't do it live, but we can still serve these people. And that's exactly what we did. We went exactly back through it, got the recording, sent it back out to them, I believe same day.
Yeah, it was same day. We put it up.
Of course, you're an incredible.
We put it on Facebook and YouTube and sent it in our community as well, and just sent an email to everyone. Just, when you mess up, when things go wrong, it's such a great opportunity to show up very well, and to show up and be like, go above and beyond. The great restaurants, the great companies, that's what they do. When they mess up, they make things better, make things right. And that's just what I believe, just personally, that's what I believe in our business. I mean, we got a bad review the other day.
Right.
And we don't get many bad reviews on Google. And as you get larger, as you get bigger, it's going to happen.
100%.
Because now you're more of a target. People feel comfortable giving a bad review to a large company than a company that has 5 or 6 people and they know the people there.
Right.
And with that review, I was like, okay, perfect. we're about to blow the socks off this person.
Yep.
You know, we did. We called them. This person got their lashes and hair done. We refunded it all to them and still paid the people that did it.
Yep.
And a lot of people disagree with that. Financially, it's not the smartest thing, but I want that person, when they think of Silver Salon, they're thinking, yeah, I didn't really love it, but boy, they made it right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're going to do in this network. When we mess up, we're going to own it. So we were talking about, we were sitting by the fire last night. I said, I will own up to my mistakes.
Yep.
And I know you will too, because you have. It drives me insane when people don't own up to their mistakes, and it's pride. And I'm like, if you own up to your mistakes, you go up the ladder.
100%. I love what you just said there too. And I mean, honestly, we need to make this as a separate one because it is such an important part, I think, of a person's growth process. But to keep it simple for this one, we chose to show up. We chose to make it right. And for me, again, at the end of the day, a lot of the choices that I make in the moment of it, I am here to serve others, right? That is exactly it. What I also have to remember though, is at the end of the night, I'm the only one that reconciles my day. So if I look at all the choices that I made, if we would have said, okay, cool, you know what, that didn't work out. Let's keep to our schedule. Let's jump back to the salon, jump into filming right away. I would have, at the end of that day, I wouldn't have had the energetic, I wouldn't have been able to reconcile in the way of saying, I really showed up today. In the moment of crisis, I not only dealt with crisis, but I worked through it. And I just want to say, I appreciate your spirit. I appreciate your awareness as a human. Because like I said, when you said, let's refilm it, like my soul was like, all right, yes, that is exactly what we need to do.
Yeah, there was no way I was like letting that off the table. Mm-hmm. Or here's another thing. There was no way I was going to leave that Instagram and Facebook live. Like that is not up to our standards.
It was not good.
And as soon as we re-recorded it and put it out there, I deleted those.
Yep.
Because it was, to us, it was tragic. You know, most people might be like, oh, I thought it was good. And I'm like, well, we have, when it comes to production, we're both snobs. So awesome. Well, we just wanted to talk about talk about that day and how the thought process, because we both got knocked in the teeth. And honestly, it wore us out. We went recorded the Artists Academy. The next day, we didn't show up 100%. And then last night, we were very disciplined of being like I could have talked by the fire all night.
100%.
But I was like, you know what? I got to be there for our team tomorrow. We got to show up well so we can record this podcast for you guys today. So, you know, it's a new day every day. And when you get knocked in the teeth, you got to have someone like Christopher there to help you. And that could be another stylist. It could be a business partner. It could be a spouse, but you got to have someone. It could be us. Mm-hmm. I love it when a salon calls or texts me, be like, hey, I got this situation going on. Because now I'm like, oh my gosh, the fact that they thought to call me. And a lot of people, I think on the other end, they're like, oh, I don't want to bother Evan. So reach out to us. We would love to connect with you, but we just want to tell you about our day and how we got through it and our mindset. We're not perfect people, but you know, it's all about how you come back from it.
100%. And then for those of you that were on for 11 minutes of me, making, I don't know sign language. I have no idea what I'm doing.
I was just give them like point your finger up. Yeah. What? 1 second. We know. Point to your ear.
Yep.
Like it was terrible.
However we could do it. But again, for those people that were a part of that, this gives you a little bit of context to what happened. So thank you. And then I guess you're welcome.
Thanks for listening to the Refine Network with Evan and Chris. That's not very official. I'm not going to do that. Hey, just thanks for listening to the Refine Network. See you guys.